We sure do live in a bit of a dystopia, don't we? I can go off to a website and start a chain of processes in which an underpaid worker skims money off the top of a family-owned restaurant's profits to turn his car's gasoline into CO2, while this stranger uses my phone number and address to deliver a plate of scrambled eggs with a hash brown, and I trust him not to steal from my porch. I can spend my afternoons setting in motion a tragedy on a societal scale, making workers in a fulfillment center, stressed and overworked, package up a set of funny dice and have a courier who doesn't get the benefits of a UPS, FedEx, or mail truck even, to deliver said dice in just a few short hours after I make my purchase. I can sit and watch rug pull after bloody rug pull happen in real time, with commentary from people all across the board, from the most valiant of white knights to the most unhinged of conspirators, while the world falls endlessly around me, picking itself back up with each societal failing giving way to another one of equal caliber. I wear a mask to protect myself from SARS, as fruitless as it may seem in a world where SARS is just a fact of life now. I take pills that are rapidly getting restricted in states for supposedly turning God-fearing men into treacherous, demon-worshipping hags who will brutalize children for their blood or something. It's hard not to feel like an empty fuck is the main character in consumer soft products Cruelty Squad, released in 2021 for Windows. Its lead developer, one Ville Kallio, was a video artist known for his work in the Prague's Futura collection and the SIC gallery in Helsinki. Though a prolific artist, Kallio had never really been particularly successful, and so much of his work was centered on the conventions of digital media in gaming. The transition of making a game in his signature style made perfect sense, and as such we have Cruelty Squad before us. You are an empty fuck, a member of the SEC death unit who is currently out of a job and depressed bordering on suicide. Not that it matters in a world where technological advancements have led to the creation of recombinators, which allow for the reconstruction of human life after death. This is not some miracle of science, though, as the rampant corporatocracy that runs the world has made rebirth care a hassle, with a $500 medical bill awaiting the recently deceased and life rapidly becoming meaningless with that in mind. Mass shootings and mass sacrifices even are a fact of life, and your handler has a well-paying job for you if you're willing to take it. Killing the CEOs of massive omni-corporations for money. You are a part of the gig economy. You are the vehicle I set in motion when I order food. You don't deliver groceries or snacks or takeout. You deliver some twisted, malicious form of justice. Cruelty Squad is an immersive simulator, sprawling sandboxes of levels with but a single goal: kill your targets. Whether it's 1 or 2 or 5 different people to ice, you have 2 weapons and a total of 4 invasive bodily augmentations to aid you in your mission to live paycheck to paycheck. The levels are very wide open, with a number of branching and twisting paths, and no timers or checkpoints. The arsenal in Cruelty Squad is pretty oddly balanced, but that doesn't mean much in a game that looks like this. Most automatic weapons are quite powerful, offset by lackluster ammo reserves. Some weapons are pretty standard, like bolt-action suppressed rifles or MP5s cut into weird little pistols, but a lot of others are just weird. Pistols with a trigger pull so heavy it takes nearly half a second to actually fire. Radiation cannons that leave behind clouds of toxic shock. Guns that completely destroy the DNA of whoever you fire at, turning them into just a mound of cancerous flesh. The G11. For the most part, the X20 rifle and the Hypernova shotgun rock the early game, and the MG3 comes in handy later on, once enemies start packing them. The game's arsenal is as varied as it is because you have a number of different targets to take down, some of which do wear very heavy armor that small arms just can't penetrate. And reloading these guns is equally weird, with this actually kind of fun gameplay mechanic of reloading being done by holding right click, dragging your gun off screen by pulling the mouse down, and then dragging it back up, making the act of reloading very skill based. You can reload very quickly, or you might get panicky and fumble yourself to death in a hail of gunfire. I really like this mechanic. You only start with a suppressed pistol and SMG firing 9mm corporate rounds though, so how do you get more guns? You don't buy them as you might expect, but rather steal them from a level and carry them to the exit, where they then get added to your inventory. There's a lot of weapons hidden around every nook and cranny, and if you come to learn that a certain enemy or hapless citizen playing vigilante carries something good, but you need other options for getting in, you could, say, carry the Mauser sniper rifle, take out the security, work your way up to that NPC, kick them in the dick so hard they ping around the room like an air hockey puck, or even just explode into parts, pick up their gun, and, well, you may as well harvest their organs while you're at it. Oh, and don't take too much damage in the process, otherwise your divine light gets severed. It means you can't open certain special doors, ooh. And if you die 4 times, your medical debt does get cleared, though you are subject to a very invasive procedure where you are constantly regenerating. Always in pain, don't have a face, and have to eat corpses to survive. In other words, you get a source of healing. 1 HP at a time. But this arsenal and medical grindhousing match the game's discordant, hyper-surrealist hellscape quite nicely. Rather than opting for what some might call a form of realism, Cruelty Squad's maps and materials offer very little bearing on the real world. Buildings done up in geometric patterns, oddly shaped doors and poorly laid out houses, and vaguely unnerving faces grimacing at you everywhere make up the bulk of the game's visual design. This, paired with the very off-putting soundtrack and grisly matters of your job, give the game's world a very alien quality, requiring you get into the headspace of our local resident empty fuck in order to make better sense of the world around you. And honestly, by the time I made it to Sin Space Engineering, the 3rd level, the strangeness of my environment started to fade away. I wasn't thinking about the strange, questionable choices of texture or layout. I wasn't trying to discern what purpose a room had. It became part of this cohesive whole, a language I was learning and navigating my way through on the fly. And at one point, when I was smack dab in a pizza house with its name all over every single wall, Cruelty Squad's messaging crystallized. Despite its distance from a world we can call home, Cruelty Squad is about our world. If you're in a developed or developing country, you can absolutely attest to the bombardment of marketing and buzzwords. Maybe we're not surrounded by repeated calls of virtue, purity, strength, power, and punishment, but we've spent the last 2 years hearing about the importance of unity and the efforts of essential workers, who we gave pretty much no benefits in the long run. CEOs and corporations paying nothing in taxes is an open secret, and the people at the wheel are inherently replaceable, as the only end goal is to pad out the bottom line no matter what it takes. It's a world too big to fail, but also constantly failing at the same time. We are the gig economy. We are Cruelty Squad. And regardless, it's a world only benefiting the hollow, belligerent shells with CEO mindsets, to the detriment of everyone else below them. Speaking of, Cruelty Squad does have an in-game economy. I said you can't purchase guns, but you can purchase experimental and dangerous augmentations to your wretched flesh for money. But while you earn a pittance for your work as a contract killer, you can make it big on the stock exchange. A very volatile stock exchange, constantly and randomly raising and lowering in value pretty much every second, which will also accept the organs you steal from the innocent and guilty, as well as fish if you decide the angler lifestyle is more befitting a contract killer such as yourself. Fish in the sink, it might be worth something someday. Money is king in Cruelty Squad 2, as the most expensive augmentations can run hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can buy a house, and you can unlock a weapon whose power is inherently dictated by your holdings in the stock market. The market is one of the biggest things you end up influencing in the game, actually. You are killing CEOs and then dumping company funds into keeping themselves alive because you keep shooting them dead, causes a corporation to go out of business after just the first few levels. Game, a chain that sells, you guessed it, at the local mall, experiences a short squeeze around the midpoint of the game, with stock going from as low as a couple hundred a share to as high as a couple thousand, ripe for preying upon if you know that it's happening. But if you're too late, the company just goes out of business and your fortunes dry up. The stock prices of Cruelty Squad, the company in the game, steadily increase as you complete levels, and if you're willing to put your faith in the market, you can easily make a fortune. It's also totally still gambling despite what stock experts will tell you, and you can just as easily waste your time and money on something effectively useless. Back to the lake with you. It's hard to condense my thoughts on this game. Its nature so cyclical, so well versed into the issues of the world around us, so willing to be gross, ugly, and crass, but so very realistic about it all. NPCs complain that they're tired, they hate their jobs, but there's nothing else waiting for them. They don't even get the solace of death. In a biopunk future where regeneration is forced upon the populace for a ready source of bottom-of-the-barrel labor, where a mistake on your employer's part leads to death squads surrounding your apartment block and trying to kill you, the same people you'll see tomorrow at work who will try to not bring up the whole affair, while your ambitious plan to kill everyone to prevent a merger from going through ends with senseless violence because the merger fell through before you even arrived. In a world oversaturated with slogans and advertisements desensitized to violence because it surrounds us in our media day in and day out, effectively impossible to go a day without hearing about the death of another human being, in a world of brutal police willing to take a civilian's life just for a paycheck. The lines between Cruelty Squad's gallows humor fiction and the follies of our own late-stage capitalist world are hard to separate. Consumer Soft Products has made a truly fantastic game with a hell of a lot of content to play around with. Secret levels and alternate endings, wrapped in a story that feels absurdist, but it's really quite unfathomably real in its portrayal. And it's absolutely worth the play if you're willing to stomach its unorthodox gameplay and world. Cruelty Squad is $20 on Steam.